stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good morning. Welcome to our November meeting of the Delaware County TID. I'm Chris Boserman, County Engineer, privilege of chairing our board. To my left is Cy Keeley, our Secretary Treasurer, members Tom Price and Pat Blaney, and also recognize County Commissioner Jeff Benton, who just joined us. So, that we have a fairly short agenda for the meeting today. Item 1 we completed. Item 2 is public comment. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our October 13th board meeting.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item 4, the chairman's report. I guess the big news, not specifically related to our TID, but is the passage of out of the House of a infrastructure bill in Washington that increases funding for transportation, for roads and bridges, and in addition, a number of other things. And one of the summaries that I read from our county engineers, National County Engineers Association, said that the bill increases opportunities for local governments to apply directly for federal funding without all that money flowing through the state transportation departments. And so I thought that was very interesting. I'm trying to find out more information about what that actually means. It's always amazing how hard it is to really find out what a bill that comes through Congress actually says. So some of you may know, as far as I know, that it's awaiting the president's signature at this point. I don't think it's been signed.
I think that's correct.
Unless I missed that yesterday. So I'll keep you updated on that, and certainly any increase in funding for transportation is of interest to our board. And as I learn more, I'll share that with you. Okay. The other item I just would report I believe it's new news since our last meeting that the commissioners have filled the county administrator position with Tracy Davies, who is a county resident and long time. She's been a long time active in public service in and around Central Ohio. And so, Jeff, thanks for your hard work and what looks like a really good hire. And I'm assuming and hoping that you'll appoint her to fill the seat on this board that our previous county administrator filled, and we'll hopefully by the first of the year be back to a full board. So I don't unless there's. I'm sorry. That's the plan. Okay. So November 29th. Good. So unless there's anybody else feels any urgency that I don't. It's not my plan to move ahead to try to do an interim appointment, and I don't think we need to fill that position, knowing that her appointment to this board is imminent. So that's all I have to report at this time. Cy, could you take us through our Secretary Treasurer's report?
Yeah, the current cash balance is $4,416,139.86. That's all I have to report today.
All right, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to accept the Secretary Treasurer's report.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Price, seconded by Mr. Blaney. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any reports or comments from anyone else on the committee? Hearing none, I'll move on to item 7, our staff report. Chief Deputy Rob Riley, would you fill us in on the list of items that you've prepared for us?
I sure will. Good morning. Thank you. I'll start with a big one. This is the 713637 interchange project that we've been talking about for quite some time. We have reached a final agreement with MS Consultants. I see Valerie Christman just joined us this morning. So as representative of MS Consultants, we have a signed contract from MS, and so this will be before you in just a few minutes for approval. This is a big deal. I mean, the county's been talking about this for a long time. ODOT's been talking about this for a long time, and frankly, it's been stalled for a number of years due to really just the lack of developer push to get the plans done. And so this will kind of get the ball rolling again in a big way. So we can obviously talk more about that in a few minutes. Budget revisions, we had a handful of, I'd call them relatively minor things, clean up, basically getting some of the early estimates we had from the beginning of this year revised, so we have a more accurate picture of our year-end carryover, and then also just some minor category name changes to make those, I guess, make a little bit more sense. So glad to answer any questions on that when we get there. North Road Extension, that project, as you recall, was wrapped up a couple of months ago. We have submitted the invoice to ODOT for the $250,000 grant, and so we just are awaiting that payment. But the cost certification is ready for your approval. Finally, the Heights Road and 23 improvements, we've still got a few more bills and a few more items to work out, so that certification probably won't happen until either next month or January. I know we'll be discussing whether we actually need a December meeting or potentially just kick that till January. But that work is all done, turned out really nice. And then finally, home and Sawmill Parkway, that contract was awarded last month. The contractor will probably be waiting until sometime next spring. There's still some utility work to happen ahead of that, and so I think we'll see more work being started next spring. So glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. I'll just point out on the home and sawmill project again that we were the recipient of $400,000 in grant funds from the TID pool for MoDOT on that. And hope that we have ongoing success in that. We continue to discuss as a collectively among counties the need for that pot of money that TIDs are eligible to compete for, with that number needing to increase. So, Representative Carfani has heard that and tried to make some improvements in that, and that'll be an ongoing thing. So if you get a chance to talk to anybody at the state level about the TID funding, thank them for that. Also remind them that there are over 50 TIDs now, all competing for a really pretty small pot of funding. Rob, thanks again for your work and for all you do to help keep these projects moving forward. So the first item Rob talked to us about was the agreement at the interchange of 3671. So we have two items to consider here. The first, item 8, is a resolution for a project agreement with the Delaware County Commissioners for the funding to be transferred to the TID for us to move this project forward. And so, are there any questions about that resolution before I ask for a motion?
Do you need two, or is this A and B going to be together?
I was gonna do those as separate,
Okay.
resolutions.
Move to approve A, resolution approving project agreement with Delaware County. Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also B, the resolution approving professional services agreement, same project. I'll second that, but before we vote on it, I have one phrase in there I've been pondering the meaning of and haven't had time to sort it out. If you look at page 3, item 10.3, it says this section does not require unauthorized duplication of copyrighted materials. Can anybody translate that for me? I'm struggling with that one.
Sure, so, I think the intent of that contract provision is basically a lot of the software, that is used to report, or generate the reports and calculations for the design. Obviously, the reports themselves are not copyrighted, but anything, software related, would not be required to be transmitted or provided, so, that's probably not a very good explanation. But that's basically the intent, is not to require the consultant to transmit anything that they're not able to legally transmit to us.
This isn't about ownership of the work product.
No, that's clear how
Okay.
that's worked out.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen that language year after year.
Yep, sure you have.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
This is an interesting phraseology here. All right, I'll second it, as I said. Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Under discussion, I just wanted to point out that that our TID taking on this project is a really good example of what TIDs can do and should do in terms of bringing flexibility to regional transportation projects that the county itself or any of the other political subdivisions in and of themselves may not or maybe could not do. ODOT probably would move forward with this project in its own time and would be constrained significantly by their own regulatory process for selecting consultants and evaluating, and even then may not have the immediacy that the county shares toward the need for this project. And so I'm really glad that the TID can do this and move forward and keep a project moving that has the potential to just languish under a number of factors. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents for
Sure.
For how this
And I know
how
this
this
has been
works.
talked about for a long time, but if you look at the map that came with the resolution 2021-08, the second phase of this interchange, which is identified in yellow, that's predicated on not being, because this is the same design we've been talking about for many, many years, 'cause even when I was in Rob's position. But that second phase really doesn't start till there's something moving on the preceding phases, like C and D. How's that? I see it's scheduled before that, but don't you have to have some clarification, those other phases are imminent, don't you?
Right. So I think, the way that will go, Pat, is phase B and C, being the yellow and green, will go together.
Okay,
There's probably, there's a possibility you could build phase B as a standalone phase. I'm not sure that it's necessarily a logical place to stop on the west side.
Yeah.
It basically would only go to 3Bs and K, or
right,
what isn't shown on the map is the Four Winds Drive, which would extend down to
yes,
that.
yeah.
I'm not sure that's a logical place to stop a construction phase, so more than likely, I think the yellow and green will go together.
Okay, Thanks.
That's a good point to raise, Pat. This phasing is a little bit different than the original phasing that was contemplated by ODOT. If you recall, there was basically an assumption made early on that Sunbury would basically build the part that's shown in kind of the light orange color on the east side as a committed improvement. That's what ODOT considered that to be. As it turns out, I think that will probably follow a little bit later. We have clearly a development with the Metro apartment development that will generate quite a bit of potential TIF revenue that will help advance the west side, and I think that's as we sit here today, I think that's the discussion, and that's the plan to try to advance that west side with some of those funds. And then obviously Sunbury will be working on the east side while we're doing that.
So I'm not familiar with where the location of that apartment complex is.
It's just south of the RV dealership
Okay.
at Africa Road.
All right.
Kind of south and east, so the red and green line basically goes right through the middle of it.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Motion on the floor. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 is approving of budget revision number 1, and Rob previewed that we're basically doing cleanup accounting on project amounts. Rob, is it safe to summarize that to say we're dealing with actual numbers now as opposed to budgeted and estimated numbers?
That's
that
correct.
we started with, so.
Yep.
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have a certificate of completion for the North Road Extension Project.
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there other business to come before us? I have one item, but I'll yield to any of you if you do. Hearing none, just talk about our next scheduled meeting is for December 8th. I would suggest, I actually have a conflict that day. Rob and I talking, we don't have anything imminent for the December meeting. Would suggest that we defer our next meeting to our January date, which is
The 12th.
the January 12th, yes.
Mr. Chair, I would just note, just as we did this year, we can certainly wait until January to approve the 2022 budget. That's not a problem. I don't think we're gonna have any expenses that are due before January 12th, but by that time, I'll be working with Mr. Keeley on the budget, and then we'll have the final cost certification for Hyatt's Road, and then we'll return the balance to the county.
You need a motion, Chris?
I don't think we do. If we're all in consensus to that, we'll just, I'll act. Ask Sarah to remind me not to show up on December the 7th. Or 8th. All right. Hearing no other business, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Hearing no resounding objection, I'll declare it adjourned.